I was the chair of the search committee for our superintendent search for our SU, and I've agreed to also serve in the capacity this evening of hosting a candidate forum. So we're here this afternoon to introduce one of the search committee's recommended candidates for the position of superintendent to the SVSU, Dan Surface. So Dan, before we get to the questions, there's a few introductory points about the session just to set the context and the sort of situational awareness. So even though there are folks participating online and viewing online, and we have the banner present here in person, I will be the one asking the questions. As opposed to taking them from the public. Understood. But with that said, the questions were generated through feedback from the community. There was an online survey that was posted last week. Links were found at various social media sources as well as the SU website. Questions were asked. And although maybe the exact wording of the questions you'll hear tonight don't match exactly, they do cover the themes that were addressed. So we have 45 minutes and we'll get through as many of the questions as we can. And we will allow you a few moments at the end to sort of summarize anything you might want to summarize. Thank you. There is an online survey for the members of the community to provide feedback on all of our candidates, all of our finalists. So again, if you're watching at home or if you're watching this after the fact, I would encourage you to go to the SU webpage, that's svsu.org, where you will find these feedback surveys under both of the candidates' names. So very good. And again, it's that because community input and community participation has been such a valued part of this, I would encourage anyone who has even the remotest interest to watch these interviews and to go ahead and fill out that survey. So now, under our finalists. So again, welcome to the SVSU, Mr. Surface. So understand you've visited buildings today, you met with students, you met with staff, met with faculty. I'm wondering if you could please start us off by telling us what you saw today that excites you about the possibility of serving as the SVSU's next superintendent.
Sure, thank you. I took some notes through the day, so I hope you don't mind if I refer to them. But I don't have to refer to my notes to say, first of all, how appreciative I am to be able to go through the day that was offered today, and how grateful I am. I guess what sticks out to me most is the kindness, the welcoming feel that I got in each of the buildings. I've been in a lot of buildings through my career. For example, when I was in Europe, I was part of an accreditation team that traveled through many buildings, and you really get a good feel. It doesn't take long to get the notion that this is a building that cares, and teachers that care about kids. And so between the kids, the students, I should say, and the adults, the teachers, the counselors, the administration, I really had that feel that this is a student-centered, student-focused union and schools that are putting their resources and their time into what we need, and that is to develop kids, right, and to meet them where they are and to develop them for their future, to be life ready. So I really got that feeling very strongly today, and that sort of summarizes it. But I can go on. I thought I loved the student discussions, and the questions were thoughtful. We had give and take that I really appreciated because, and they asked me things like, how would I involve students in moving the district forward or the union forward? And great questions. I really want to be mission oriented, and this is what I told them. I'm about students. I'm about the teachers and the coaches and the advisors that work directly with the students, and providing the resources and the time, the dedication to focus on what our students need most. So I really got that from them and from the adults, that I felt like the resources here are focused on the right things. And I can't say enough about the feel in the buildings, about belonging. And I asked them some questions like, when students move in or when students come in together from the elementary school into the middle school, do they feel included? Or is there a sense of belonging? And across the board, they all said absolutely. And that goes a long way. And they all said that the adults care about the students. They care about them, and there's relationships. So we, knowing what their needs are is essential to what we do.
Wonderful. Great, thank you. Students' academic achievement is one of the areas that the community would like to hear your thoughts on. So we have a couple of questions related to that theme, please. To start with, can you please tell us about your experience leading initiatives to improve students' academic achievements?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I guess what I was most proud of, and this is not about me as much as it about the team that put this particular initiative together. And so when I came to the high school it wasn't my first principalship, but it was Elizabethtown High School, area high school that had a large population. Culture and climate were low, morale was extremely low, and our test scores were low. In Pennsylvania, they call it the school performance profile, and we were at the bottom of the county. So we got together with the teachers, and we just tabled the challenges that we had before us, and came up with goals and solutions, steps to achieve those goals. And I remember sitting in that meeting and leaving, this is what it's supposed to be about. Because I wasn't the smartest person in the room. We had all the tested subjects represented, math and ELA and science. And they stood up together and they said, let's move forward. Where are our biggest challenges? And how can teachers support each other? And how can the administration support the teachers to improve our test scores? And so academic achievement and growth was at the center of that conversation for all three tested subjects. And some of the things that we did were, the subjects that were doing well, science, for example, took the students that were doing well in math and ELA during periods of the day, so they could get so the students could get the remediation in the math and ELA that they needed. And that was just one example. Some of the other examples, the math teachers decided to change their sequencing from Algebra 1 to Geometry to Algebra 2, to Algebra 1 to Algebra 2, so we could provide the remediation right in the algebra course. So there was a series of steps that we took. Our test scores, our assessment scores over the next couple of years and continued were put us at the top third of the county. And what was most pleasing to me is the camaraderie that came out of that school-wide among the 90 teachers, and their doors were open. They were sharing best practices with each other. And when you get to that point and move away from isolation within the classroom and set up a professional learning community, is what I would refer to that as. It was so rewarding for kids, and the district flourished. And again, I humbly say that it was because of us collaboratively and not something that I directly came in and said, we're going to do this or that.
Gotcha. So going along with that, can you elaborate on how you might ensure that the SVSU implements strategies for instruction, particularly those that are aligned to research and best practice in literacy, mathematics, and sciences?
Right. Yeah, I'd like to come in first. And the students asked me some of that today too, as well as a conversation with some of the teachers. I'd like to come in and know more about what we're doing now. Mm-hmm. And that means a lot of sort of, committee meetings or discussions, one-on-one and small group, to see in each of the content areas what it is that we are doing and what are the tested anchors, what does the data show that we're not achieving to, and then go back to our curriculum and our instruction and see, find out the why, not without assigning blame, but just together looking at, where are the gaps in our students' learning, and what can we do to better achieve them, to better for improving achievement and growth. So in addition to that, really knowing what the impediments are outside of the direct curriculum instruction and assessment for each of the tested subjects. So for example, what other impediments? Is there trauma that we're not addressing? Is there social emotional learning? We're still seeing in the districts in Pennsylvania some residual effects of COVID, and that so how can we really look at student engagement and what are the impediments to student engagement? So there's a lot to it. I would like to see what And we had some conversations today about, reading, for example. What ELA series are we using that's based on best practice and research, as you said? So the science of reading and early childhood literacy. So kids are reading. It's hard to learn through the higher grades if you're not reading at grade level, right?
Sure.
So identifying those, strengthening our and I don't want to give you the impression that I know how your MTSS program works here, but we put a lot of focus into our tier 1, our universal instruction, but then our tier 2 and our tier 3 to help those kids move back up into the, out of the intervention phases and back into the, so there's a lot to it, but I love the challenge. I've been there before, and I think that this is, when you have the positive attitude that I felt today, anything's achievable.
Fantastic. Now, you've begun to touch on this with your previous answer, but what are some of the ideas you have about ways that the SVSU can ensure equitable opportunities for all students, including those with disabilities?
Yeah, I think the data would show, once we desegregate it and see what are the lower performing subgroups, right? So is it based on economically disadvantaged? Is it based on English language learners, or what subgroups do we need to focus on? So the data should give us an idea where to devote resources in that regard. But I've often, whenever I bring this up, I've often been asked, well, what about, the gifted kids? Well, I want the pie to be bigger. I want all kids to be able to achieve. So wherever they are in the continuum, I think we need to make sure that we know, first of all, individually. And I saw that in some of our schools today where the teachers knew the kids individually, knew what their individual needs were, and I think that goes a long way in supporting them. So, I guess to answer your question, I'd say, make sure that we have a really well-functioning MTSS program, multiple tiered systems of support, and positive behavioral PBIS program too, whatever it's called here in the state or
PBIS,
locally. I think strengthening that program, making sure we're focusing on what kids need most.
Great. Community members are also curious about your thoughts on school climate and safety. So to that end, what experiences have you had related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, particularly in supporting marginalized students? And what specific policies or initiatives would you implement or strengthen to ensure that all students feel safe, valued, and have equal access to those opportunities?
Yeah, there's a lot to that, right?
Yeah.
When I first heard safety, I think both physical safety of the schools, but then also the proactive approach to making sure that we're doing the right things. We're identifying kids with the needs and the different needs, and as I touched on earlier, making sure that we're supporting them to the best. So regarding and that's why I asked the question today about so often about do you as students feel included and belong? Because that culture is essential for all kids to feel that way, and that's not prevalent in all the schools where I've been to assess or to look at, and so I think I'd start there to make sure that's the vision that we all have. SU wide, we're all on the same page, knowing that every child needs to be heard and known. It's the undiscovered kids that I'm worried about most. And I served. The reason I loved serving in the Navy is we got so many of the kids that were 18, 19, 20 years old that were undiscovered in high school.
Okay.
And I love that. And for my entire career, those were the folks that we focused on because they were our mission. They were serving and achieving our goals and our mission. And sort of the same, if you can see the parallels, that's what I see here, that our kids and our teachers, we need to know them. We need to have a common vision to know that every one of them needs to have a journey, their own journey. So when we talk about personalized learning plans, for example, 7th through 12th grade, I've read about them in the literature on the SU, but I haven't seen them in action. But that would, that for every student and an adult to help guide them in that regard, I think is powerful for our kids to achieve and grow and develop and be life ready.
Great. Thank you. Some adults in the school system and community have also voiced not necessarily feeling safe, respected, or valued. So what role might the superintendent play in supporting all members of the community, including those adults?
Mhm.
And what steps might you take for making staff specifically feel safe and valued?
I think listening skills and integrity goes a long way. I need to be in the buildings. I need to be talking to staff. I need to be talking to kids so I know where our challenges are and where the strengths are, right? So that's essential, and that's a non-negotiable for me in any building principalship that I've been in, assistant superintendent, or my current superintendency, that I seek first to understand, then to be understood.
Mhm.
And that's the visibility, listening, understanding, and then focusing on the areas that need focusing on, whether it's resources or whether it's my time or whether it's my, our thoughts or my participation in understanding what's going well and what's not going well and for what group of kids and what particular building.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I would concentrate my efforts.
Okay.
I tell, I say sometimes with tongue in cheek that anybody can coach LeBron James, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's the challenges where I try to devote my time, where I think I'm of most value to help move forward.
Sure.
And then that sort of it sort of spreads SU-wide or district-wide when people find out. And I thoroughly want to hear from the community about what the concerns are from the community as well. So this is not just students, teachers, and staff, but I live by the motto that I serve kids and the organization, kids, teachers, and the organization, but also we serve the greater community. They're sending their best to us,
right,
their kids, and that's where I put my focus. And if there's an area that's not going well, then I'm going to zero in there and work with the teachers. I don't come in anywhere to any organization or any day in my life and assign blame.
Mm-hmm.
What's the challenge? How do we create a plan to move together, knowing that our mission, we all have the same mission, and that is what's best for all kids, right? So all the arrows pointing in the same direction. I don't know if I'm being too vague here in this answer.
No, not at all.
But without knowing more about specifics in each of the buildings and each of the districts here,
Mm-hmm.
That's generally how I approach
Sure.
life.
Very good. Now, our SVSU used to have school resource officers in the buildings and currently have what are known as campus safety officers. There are differing opinions in the community about the best way to support students and school safety. So what steps might you take to understand the current state of student safety and to plan then for improvements?
Yeah, there I would do not just talk to folks, talk to community members, but I would do my own assessment. I've spent an awful lot of time on this over the last 8 to 10 years with school safety. Well, it goes back to basically 9/11 when I was working in a private school, my first administrative position. And I guess because of my military background and 9/11 occurred, private school had no safety and security plan. So they made me the safety and security person,
Okay.
along with, my other functions. So it started then, but I've really learned and grown a lot in that world. And it's no longer, just fire drills and lockdowns. There's so much to it. So I would do my own assessment, observe drills, walk the buildings, look at the physical plant
Mhm.
and the physical security, I noticed the vestibules here, and I actually tugged on some doors along the way. I hope that wasn't too intrusive.
Good, not at all.
Just to know, right? And 4 years ago, when I came to my current superintendency, I tugged on some doors and they were unlocked. They were open. And so we just took it on, and I'll tell you, I could tell you some side stories about some things that I had to do to get people's attention. When one was propped open with a huge rock, I picked the rock up and I walked around the building with it. And then the story started about why the superintendent was walking around with a 10-pound rock. So people start getting the message. I'm not saying you have that problem here. I'm just saying I've focused on it extensively. I would talk to your current security folks and see how they feel about it. We're doing an analysis now along those same lines. We have an SRO, and we're looking at how we can do it better. We've consulted also with some security guards for evening events, and where doors are open. Basically my policy that I enforce strictly is if a door's unlocked, there's a person at it. And on a rare occasion, when it doesn't happen, there's a conversation that occurs. There just has to be, because safety and security is my number one priority. If kids aren't safe and secure in their own building and don't feel, and I ask that question sort of in a roundabout way to the high school kids today. So, how safe do you feel, both emotionally, physically, mentally, and they did to a person felt safe. But I didn't want to obviously alarm them with why I was asked. Sure, but it's so I would do an extensive assessment and talk to folks and see. And there's a financial aspect to it too. What can we afford? But and again, where do we focus our resources? I haven't skimped on safety and security in my current district.
Great. Our third theme relates to communities and families. So please tell us what strategies you might use to strengthen communication between schools and families in the community.
Between schools without knowing enough of the structure, I can give you examples of what I've done in my current district, and then maybe some of those are transferable here. But what I did in my current district, and it's a smaller district than this is, but even as assistant superintendent, my last district with 3,800 students, I did the same thing, and that is a communication that goes out electronically, and I've connected it to all of our community, not just all the taxpayers, not just the parents of the students in the building. Each building also has their own messaging system. Some of them come from something that I would put out as in support of, or something that's just building specific. But that's gone really well, and I do those communications once every 2 weeks, and I have for 4 years now. And some of them have a certain theme to them. For example, safety and security, and or something along the lines of something that we're doing, a survey that we're doing with students or faculty and staff. And we've done one just this morning for leadership, culture, and academics. And we're having the parents survey, the student survey, and the teachers all surveying district-wide. And we've done it for the past 4 years. So I can see trends and I can see areas of concern. But getting the parents' input there is very helpful. But the communications have really gone a long way. And it's not just school related. Sometimes it's the events that are occurring out in the community that we want to draw community members together, to bring folks together. So whether we're doing it around our high school musical, or whether we're doing it around a community event, I don't hold back, and people really appreciate it. I can't tell you, I haven't put a weight on how successful it's been, but anecdotally, I get a lot of good feedback from parents on that. I've also done town halls. I might have shared before, where I've probably done 5 town halls in 4 years, where I invite the community to communicate it well in advance. Different topics. Social media was one. Proper use, what we can do at home to help with the proper use of social media, helping the parents stay out ahead of what their kids know as best as possible, which is a challenge, right? And And then what we're doing in the schools with social media and that kind of, that was one. We had one on safety security. We had one on educational, our curriculum, our educational programming guide, where we were making some shifts and wanted parents to really understand the why behind it and what we're doing. Wasn't significant changes, but we were trying to expand offerings for kids to make sure that parents know the old paradigm of vote tech school is not what it used to be. And now it's, career and technical centers with, college applications really helping those kids be life ready. And we've increased the number of students going to our CTC eightfold in the last 5 years. That, as well as trying to bring Pennsylvania's a little different than Vermont in that for our students that live in our communities that go out to a charter school, an online charter school, it costs the district significant money. And we can offer the same thing internally. So we really ramp that program up and then explain some of those things and the college and the high school programs and the other dual enrollment programs and other things was the essence of that one. So town halls have done very well for us. We certainly publicize our board meetings. We want to be as transparent as possible. And I've had an open door policy since I've been there. So I've talked to a lot of parents one-on-one and listened. And you put the puzzle together and you find meaning in the things that are being shared, and then you can go out and do something about it. Okay. So that sort of summarizes, I think, how I've worked over the community. I can tell you, I've joined the Safety and Security Council of the Townships Council. I've joined our foundation board. It's there's a lot of time commitment to those things, but I find great value in those because I'm meeting with the community members as I joined the local Rotary. I ran the Student of the Month program for the local Rotary for the last 3 years, and it gets me involved with industry partners and other ways that help our kids. But I think really bolster the reputation, if you will, or the perception of the school district that we're doing a lot right. Yeah. And be willing to listen and to know that there's things that we can always improve upon. Continuous improvement is both individually and collectively, I think, is something that I know I live by, and I want to live by continue to do it professionally here, whether it's here or wherever I am. Great.
We've already started to segue into the next question, which is a question about how you would balance stakeholder requests while still centering children and their needs in your decision making.
Yeah, the balance. I think you really have to make sure first with any decisions and with any group's concerns or desires or wants or needs, really understanding the whole picture. And I don't make rash decisions, although I don't kick the can down the road either, but you really need to put together, understand all the potential unintended consequences and what are the trade-offs, the pros and cons, and really do the analysis together in a group. So I've run steering committees, stakeholder groups. I just finished one that I might have shared before with, there were 3 evening sessions, and we're really looking at what's best for all kids as far as class roster sizes, and at the K-6 level particularly. And so it included parents and included all stakeholder groups, and we came out with a consensus, which was challenging because there's teachers in there and there's parents that want lower class sizes, but there's also financial folks in there that understand the budgetary issues. So getting the folks together and giving people voice and then putting it together, it's a challenge, but that's why we're here. Right. And keeping, when I start each one of these meetings, I share the district mission and vision and guiding principles that hopefully center the conversation around kids and our mission as opposed to individual agendas.
Mhm.
That makes
Okay, yeah, I think absolutely. And then what experiences have you had that prepared you to help the SBSU to try to limit those budget and property tax increases?
Yeah, I'm going through that right now. We're looking at, we're curious what's happening with federal money, of course, the IDA money and the title money, but more so concerned about we have rising costs, expenditures, predicted expenditures are significantly increasing, and our revenue from the state is relatively flat. And in Pennsylvania, of course, and I think like here, the really onus often is on the taxpayers and property tax. So I've spent a lot of time over the past several months in looking at next year. Our budget's due coming up for review, but approval by June or in June. As I spent collectively with my team and individually with different principals and directors is to look at where we can find savings.
Mm.
In each case, the essential question is what's the impact on kids? And what could be, the low-hanging fruit is probably already behind me a couple months. So now we're cutting down even more to look at this closely. But in Pennsylvania, we're capped with an Act 1 index. So I can't go be above 4%.
Okay.
Anyway, so, but with our, what our challenge right now is, quite frankly, is that our employee contract is at 4%, and our Act 1 index is at 4%. And there's an automatic gap there. And ESSER funds are gone, as you know,
Yep.
so all these things we're looking at very closely, but there's some efficiencies that can be gained. The old adage in schools is don't keep putting the roof repairs off too long because they'll be, you'll be putting buckets down. So we're very conscious, and I meet with our building and grounds person frequently as we can see what we can defer, but what we have to get done too. So we're prioritizing, and that's the only way to do it. But it's tough right now. I think it's tough. It's tough everywhere, and I'm hearing it from my colleagues that I stay in touch with, and I'm hearing that a bit here and reading about it in this state as well. So I think being, conservative budgeting, being attentive to where we're spending our dollars is what we all need to do, and we're getting that message out with our teachers and personally, I have to lead that. I can't go to conferences that cost the district money if I'm asking teachers not to.
Right.
So I'm living that myself as well, and it's the right thing to do. It's not like I'm patting myself on the back here. It's just the right thing to do.
Mhm.
Right? So, yeah.
Very good. Lastly, community members would like to learn more about your leadership style and vision. So to begin with, how will you establish a leadership presence in the schools and communities of the SBSU?
Yeah, I want to be involved. I want to be out in the community. I want to be out in our schools, as I've said earlier, and that's non-negotiable for me. That's where I have to spend my time to listen and learn and understand the SBSU and the schools and the other boards. So that's number one. My leadership style is one of, I've often said that I'm a servant leader. I think that sounds, the more I've said it, the more I've developed my own leadership style. I still believe that to the core, that I'm here to serve the community. I'm here to serve kids, and I'm here to serve the teachers and advisors and coaches that are on the front lines with the kids. That's I'm there to serve. Simon Sinek and Leaders Eat Last resonates with me. But there's also sometimes I have to be out in front too, right? I mean, the budget process is one of those. People don't naturally come to the business manager's door and say, I want to start cutting money from my budget. Do you mind if I can give some money back, right? So I have to lead that charge, and so recognizing where you have to be out in front, but where you can be one of the team is critical. So some of it is situationally dependent.
Mhm.
But in every case, I hope people know in my current district and my past districts would all tell you that I work at a self-sacrificing pace. If there's one thing that my boards have always told me is you got to balance your life a little better,
Okay.
and they did tell me in my mid-year evaluation this year that I'm doing better at that. So that's a good thing. But I think that's part of leadership, is to show that my energies and my passion is about what I'm doing. And that's the mission of the district, and working toward our vision.
Okay. Great. How would you describe your leadership style?
I think I'm empathetic, I'm fair, I have good listening skills. My leadership style is one of support and collaboration. I would say people would describe me as fair, as consistent as I can be, as transparent as I can be. Personnel issues are aside, I try to be transparent about everything to really, so folks understand the why. I think that I treat teachers as professionals, coaches as professionals. We explain, and talk about the what and the why. Teachers do the how, right? How does it get done in their classroom? So I really appreciate empowering teachers. I think that goes a long way. There's guardrails, and we're all moving in the same direction on behalf of kids. But that's my leadership style within the schools. I think I can tell you that, I praise in public, and I have great teachers, and that's a mantra to the public. But every once in a while, there needs to be a difficult conversation, but that's all part of leadership. You can't duck that, right?
Yeah.
You have to, but I would expect that of the board too. And my board knows that if you see me going sideways in any way, they haven't, but if they did, I want to know.
Yeah.
And I think clear direction is kind, and unclear direction is unkind, right? So I don't know who said that. It was somebody smarter than me, but I think it might have, well, Brene Brown, maybe, I'm not sure. But anyway,
That resonates. Sure.
yeah. So anyway, I think that sort of summarizes who I am.
Okay.
What you see is what you get from me,
All right.
and I think I know that people that have worked with me over the years would tell you that.
Great. This next question is very similar to what you just spoke with, but there are some nuances. So let me ask the question. If there's anything else you'd like to add,
Sure.
please do. But please describe the role and relationship you'd like to establish specifically between your office of superintendent and the school and staff of the SVSU. And again, you've spoken to much of that, but is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I would say overall, I'd say we have to function as a team, and whatever we call it, a leadership team or whatever, we all need to be in this together. And again, I can't speak specifically to the SVSU, but I work hard at that. At Elizabethtown, as the assistant superintendent there, I had 7 principals, 7 buildings that reported to me. And that was our theme, that we were all in this together. And by the time COVID came around and we were all on that Zoom screen together, we felt that even though we weren't in the same room together, we felt that we were a team. We're going to put this thing together, and we're going to do the very best we can for kids. And it was, I equated to sports, and the strength of a team is its weakest player. The strength of a chain is its weakest link, determined by its weakest link. So all together, supporting each other in that regard, I think is what, I don't want to say that it's not happening here in the district, because I don't know, or in the union, but I would say that's the essential piece to this.
Okay.
So I don't know if there's anything more to that, but I think the staff needs to hear that message. not the staff, I don't know if the staff has that message or not, but that's the staff, that's the message I share with my district office team, that we're here. Again, it relates back to what I said before. We're here for the kids. We're here for the teachers who are supporting the kids. And if we're not, let's self-reflect on why we're not.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have about 3 minutes left. So I'd like to ask you what is admittedly a complex question, but then also to allow you to answer that and then say whatever you may want to say in closing. So the final question is, what do you see as the critical challenges that our students face now and must be prepared to face in the future?
Our students generally right now, I think we, our students that I can speak to that I know well, and I think, my own kids in that regard as well, is mental health, stress, the unknown. How can we help them through to be positive, to look forward and to be positive with them and know that their future is bright. And we've done a lot with mental health and with social emotional learning. And I think there's still some residual from COVID in that regard, but I think all kids need a strong social emotional learning program, and what goes along with that is citizenship and character development. And I think it goes into the whole holistic educating the whole child. So in preparation for their future, which is changing rapidly, more rapidly certainly than any time in history, I would say, because of technology. And what goes along with that is what's happening with artificial intelligence and where will that take us. But if our kids are critical thinkers and have integrative thought that can put things together and understand processes and work collaboratively, and not being afraid of failure, so that persistent and working through and seeing failure as something that can propel them and to work on. Those are the kind of things that I work on with kids, that I want our kids to be able to do. I want them to feel a bright future, be persistent, working toward that, and understanding that there's a lot of questions that we all have about how things are going to go. But if we're in this together, collaborative, and if we have that sense of belonging in our buildings and those adults that care deeply about kids and helping them through the tough times, that's what I want to be about. There are concerns. I make no bones about this in my own district, that we were very traditional and more of a all kids go to college district. But our demographics changed significantly over the last 10 to 15 years. We have to understand that and understand that the world's changing and it will be different. We're preparing students for their future, not for ours,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I really try to focus on that with our teachers and my own thinking constantly. So I think those are some of the biggest challenges. I asked some of the high school students today about, the anxiety that you get when you're looking at what you're doing next and challenges. And they seem, they acknowledged it,
Yeah.
which is great that they can understand it. But they also seem to be dealing with it well. And, and there's a college out there for everybody, and there's a job out there for everybody. Just, find your own passion, find your own, develop your own skills and knowledge and understanding, and it'll work out well for you.
Great.
That's our job. That's what we're here for.
Wonderful. Well, that brings us to the end of our time. So again, Mr. Dan Surface, thank you very much for your great time today. Again, for the folks who are at home watching via Zoom, watching on Cat TV, who will hopefully read the article tomorrow, I would encourage you to really do access that online survey to give your community feedback. It's located at svsu.org. So please check that out. Please check out yesterday's candidate forum as well if you haven't already. And thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Recording stopped.